Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I thought I'd start this week off with a nice book haul. You know, the OGBG book haul wars have been going on for quite some time now. And I thought it would be appropriate to open up the missile silos here in the Midwest and launch a few nukes their way. So, without further ado, let me show you some of these books. I've been to the used bookstores. I've been to, I got some gifts from people at school, or a gift from somebody at school. I got some books sent to me in the mail, and so I thought maybe I'd share those with you. So here we go. The first book that I've got is the PT-109, an American epic of war, survival, and the destiny of John F. Kennedy by William Doyle. And I had a teacher friend who texted me and said, "Hey, do you have this book?" And said no, and he said, "Well, let me bring it in to you." And so here it is, and this is a William Morrow publisher, and it is from 2015. And so let me read that back cover to you. And I think I actually saw this. I think I forgot to mention. I think I saw this on somebody's channel. I don't know if Very Literary Carrie's channel, if she had this one up. But I swear I saw it somewhere. So anyway, this one reads, "In the early morning of darkness of August 2nd, 1943, during a chaotic nighttime skirmish amid the Solomon Islands, the Japanese destroyer Amagiri, sorry if I mispronounced that, barreled through thick fog and struck the U.S. Navy's motor torpedo boat PT-109, splitting the craft nearly in half and killing 2 American sailors instantly. The sea erupted in flames as the 109's skipper, John F. Kennedy, and the 10 surviving crewmen under his command desperately clung to the sinking wreckage. 1,200 feet of ink-black, shark-infested water loomed beneath. All hands lost, came the report back to the Americans' base. No rescue was coming for the men of the PT-109. Their desperate ordeal was just beginning. So too was one of the most remarkable tales of World War II, one whose astonishing afterlife would culminate in two decades later in the White House. Drawing on original interviews with the last living links to the events, previously untapped Japanese wartime archives, and a wealth of archival documents from the Kennedy Library, including lost first-hand account by JFK himself, best-selling author William Doyle has crafted a thrilling and definitive account of the sinking of the PT-109 and its shipwrecked crew's heroics. Equally fascinating is the story's second act, in which Doyle explores in new detail how this extraordinary episode shaped Kennedy's character and fate, proving instrumental to achieving his presidential ambitions. And so this will be a nice little addition. I am not familiar with. I mean, I know the story of what happened, but I've never read anything on it, and so this will be new territory for me, and I'm glad to add that one to the collection. So. Now, the next 3 books I picked up at the, I told you guys last weekend I went to the public library and I got, 3 murder mysteries. Well, when I was there, the Friends of the Library at the public library, the Friends of the Library have this cart that's full of books that you can buy for $1 a piece. You drop your money in the little box and, grab your whichever copy you want. They did this in lieu of the typical big Friends of the Library book sale. It was just a way of still getting the books out without having, everybody congested in the area. And so every time we go in there, I check out the book cart to see, if there's anything in there. So I found 3 different titles, and there was actually a 4th one that I probably should have picked up and didn't, and maybe it'll be there next time, I don't know. But this first one sounds like a really interesting book. It's The Great Quake, How the Biggest Earthquake in North America Changed Our Understanding of the Planet, by Henry Fountain. And this sounds interesting to me because when I teach geography to my middle school kids, just earthquakes and volcanoes are just one of those topics that fascinates me. And the kids always enjoy learning about it. This particular book comes from Broadway Books out of New York, and it is a 2017 book. And so this sounded really interesting. I always show pictures of this earthquake when we cover earthquakes and volcanoes. I always show pictures of this particular event, and now I've got a book to read about it. So let me read the back cover of this one to you. At 5:36 p.m. on March 27th of 1964, a magnitude 9.2 earthquake, the second most powerful in world history, struck the young state of Alaska. The violent shaking, followed by massive tsunamis, devastated the southern half of the state, demolished the city of Valdez, swept away the island village of Shenega, and killed more than 130 people. George Plafker, a geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, was ordered to Alaska to investigate. His fascinating scientific detective work in the months that followed helped confirm the then controversial theory of plate tectonics. In a compelling tale about the almost unimaginable brute force of nature, the New York Times science journalist Henry Fountain combines history and science to bring the quake and its aftermath to life in vivid detail. With deep, on-the-ground reporting from Alaska, often in the company of George Plafker, Fountain shows how the earthquake left its mark on the land and its people and on science. And so this just sounds really interesting to me. It's right up my alley. Like I said, I enjoy reading about earthquakes, volcanoes. I enjoy teaching about them, and so this just goes, hand in hand with my teaching stuff. The next book I picked up from the public library, from the Friends of the Library book sale book cart, was A Season on the Brink, A Year with Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers, by John Feinstein. Yeah. Anyway, Bobby Knight, always an interesting character. He, was a long time coach for the Indiana Hoosiers, and I think he finished at, was it Texas A&M? No, not A&M, excuse me, Texas Tech. And he was always a controversial figure. I think he started his career at, was it West Point? He was at one of the military academies. I've read a book about him before, but I think he started his coaching at one of the military academies. And so he coached for a really long time. This particular book is Simon & Schuster Paperbacks out of New York, and it is a 2011 book. This one was originally from 1986, but this edition is 2011. And so if you're a basketball fan, you'll probably enjoy this. It says 25 years after it spent 16 weeks atop the New York Times bestseller list, A Season on the Brink remains the most celebrated basketball book ever written. Granted unprecedented access to legendary coach Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers during the 1985-86 season, John Feinstein saw and heard it all. Practices, team meetings, strategy sessions, and mid-game huddles as the team worked to return to championship form. The result is an unforgettable chronicle that not only captures the drama and pressure of big-time college basketball, but also paints a vivid portrait of a complex, brilliant coach as he walks the fine line between genius and madness. And I just remember growing up and seeing, I remember watching a few of the games where he had some of those classic blow-ups. And despite those blow-ups, he was an excellent coach as far as basketball and knowing the game. He just had some definite personnel problems where not personnel, I guess it would be, where his dealings with his players would be definitely questionable. But his knowledge of the game itself, I don't know that can be questioned. He was a good coach as far as that goes. He just, like I said, had some issues with his players. And the next one is a favorite TV show that I had back when it was still airing. I think they do some reruns now, and I would like to someday get all of the DVD seasons of this show, and it's Castle, if you're familiar with the show Castle. And so this is Stormfront, a Derek Storm thriller by Richard Castle. So this goes with his goes along with his character on the TV show. And there he is. He's in the show The Rookie now, which is I like that cop show. So this would be from, let's see here. Oh, it does not give a year. Sorry about that. It's Hyperion Books out of New York. It says, from Tokyo to London to Johannesburg, high-level bankers are being gruesomely tortured and murdered. The killer, caught in a fleeting glimpse on a surveillance camera, has been described as a psychopath with an eye patch. And that means Gregor Volko, Derek Storm's old nemesis, has returned. Desperate to figure out who Volko is working for and why the CIA calls on the one man who can match Volko's strength and cunning, Derek Storm. With the help of a beautiful and mysterious foreign agent with whom Storm is becoming romantically and professionally entangled, he discovers that Volko's treachery has embroiled a wealthy hedge fund manager and a U.S. senator in a heated race against time. Storm chases Volko's shadow from Paris to their lair of a computer genius in Iowa. Hey, there you go. To the streets of Manhattan, and then through a bullet-riddled car chase on the New Jersey Turnpike. In the process, Storm uncovers a plot that could destroy the global economy, unleashing untold chaos, which only he can stop. And so, the other book, the Heat Wave, Naked Heat, Heat Rises, Frozen Heat, deals with the Nikki Heat, which is the main character of his books that are based on what the TV show was based on. And so this is the Derek Storm series is actually, so if you're not familiar with it, Richard Castle was a writer that worked with the NYPD. He did ride-alongs and stuff for research for his books on Derek Storm. Or no, he had already done the Derek Storm books, and then he rode along with the New York Police Department so that he could research what police life was like when he did the Nikki Heat series. There we go. Get that all straightened out. And so these are all the books that I think are based more on what the TV show was. And then these are what he had already written before the TV show, according to the whole storyline. But anyway, it's a fun series. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The books are not as good as the show, in my opinion. But I'm getting that probably more for nostalgia. All right, so earlier in the week, I had went to, or maybe it was last weekend. Yeah, it was last weekend, right before the snow hit, or right when it was starting to hit. I ran to the antique store to pick up a bookshelf for my wife. And while we had been there buying that bookshelf, they got a whole bunch of comic books. And I got to flipping through it while my wife was browsing all the furniture stuff. And I found an old classic, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. Now, of all the comic books, this is one of my favorites. And I have a whole bunch of the toys upstairs in the storage room. And so this is issue 33 from March. And I'm just glad to have this. I've got several of them. I do not have the whole series by any means. So that's why I picked this up. It was a couple bucks, and I'm glad to add it to my comic book collection. Now I get to the gifts that were sent in the mail. And so old Steve Donahue, thank you, Steve. He was being very nice and considerate, and sent me a couple of books, and I really appreciate it. And these come from the ever famous Brattle Bookshop, so that makes it even a little bit more fun. So he sent me a couple of Lincoln books, knowing that I really like Lincoln and the Civil War. And so the first one that I'm going to show you here is President Lincoln, The Duty of a Statesman by William Lee Miller. So I'm real excited to get this. I did not have this before. This is a new one for me. I do have William Lee Miller's Lincoln's Virtues. I have that book, but I did not have this one. So this is new for the collection, getting me ever closer to the 100 Lincoln books mark. So this one is from Alfred Knopf, New York, 2008. And so let me read the front cover of this one. The American president has come to be the most powerful figure in the world, and back in the 19th century, a great man held that office. William Lee Miller's new book closely examines that great man in that hugely important office, Abraham Lincoln as president. Wars waged by American presidents have come to be pivotal historical events. Here, Miller analyzes the commander-in-chief who coped with the profound moral dilemmas of America's bloodiest war. In his acclaimed book, Lincoln's Virtues, Miller explored Abraham Lincoln's intellectual and moral development. Now he completes his ethical biography, showing the amiable and inexperienced backcountry politician transformed by constitutional alchemy into an oath-bound head of state slapped in the face from the first minute of his presidency by decisions of the utmost gravity and confronted by the radical moral contradiction left by the nation's founders, universal ideals of equality and liberty, and the monstrous injustice of human slavery. With wit and penetrating sensitivity, Miller shows us a Lincoln with unusual intellectual power as he brings together with the great themes that will be his legend, preserving the United States of America while ending the odious institution that corrupted the nation's meaning. Miller finds in this superb politician a remarkable presidential combination, an indomitable resolve combined with the judgment that keeps it from being mindless stubbornness, and a supreme magnanimity combined with the discriminating judgment that keeps it from being sentimentality. Here is the realistic war leader persisting after multiple defeats, pressing his generals to take the battle to the enemy, insisting that the objective was the destruction of Lee's army and not the capture of territory, saying that breath alone kills no rebels, remarking that he regretted war does not admit of holy days, asking whether one could believe that he would strike lighter blows rather than heavier ones, or leave any card unplayed. And here is the pardoner finding every excuse to keep from shooting the simple soldier boy who deserts. Here, too, is the eloquent leader who describes the national task in matchless prose and who rises above the vindictiveness and triumphalism as he guides the nation to a new birth of freedom. So I'm super happy to have this copy. As I said, this will go right with my Lincoln's Virtues. So this will go right into the Lincoln collection. Very pumped about having this book. And the second book that Steve Donahue sent me is Lincoln, President-Elect, Abraham Lincoln and the Great Secession Winter of 1860 through 61 by Harold Holzer. And I have read this book. This is a great, wonderful book, but I'm glad he sent me this copy because the copy I have upstairs is a paperback, and so what I will do is I will put this is a hardback copy, so I'll put the hardback in place of the paperback and donate my paperback. So thank you, Steve, for this. I'm really excited about it, really happy to have this. So there's your cover, your back cover, and it is from Simon & Schuster out of New York, and it is a 2008 book. And the whole thing, without going through the whole cover, the whole thing covers his after his election, that whole winter where James Buchanan was the lame duck president who still had power and was choosing to do nothing, and everybody was asking Lincoln for his, what are you going to do? What's the plan? And he's like, I'm not president yet. I don't, you know what my plans are. I basically already told you in all the speeches and papers that I've written. And, he gets bombarded while he's in Springfield. He gets bombarded by office seekers. And, he has to practice that wonderful gift of silence over that winter, for the most part anyway. And I just thought this was an excellent, excellent account of the Secession winter and how Lincoln handled that. I thought he did a wonderful, masterful job. So thank you, Steve, for that. I really appreciate that. And the next two books, the last two in the book haul, are from Todd at Todd's Bursting Bookcase. He sent me these, and I was super pumped to have them. He had asked me quite a while back, do you have a George McClellan biography, or do you? And I said no. And he sent me George B. McClellan, The Young Napoleon by Stephen Sears. And so I'm really excited to have this because Stephen Sears is a top-notch historian, seen his name all over the place. I don't know that I've actually read any of his books, so this might be the first one that I've read. So thank you, Todd, for this. And I'll go ahead and read the cover of this one. It says, Stephen Sears posits that General McClellan's importance in shaping the course of the Union during the Civil War was matched only by that of President Lincoln and Generals Grant and Sherman. And yet the young Napoleon has been relegated to the shadows by historians of that great conflict. The youngest in the class at West Point, McClellan was, by age 35, commander of all the northern armies. He fought the longest and largest campaign of the time and the single bloodiest battle in the nation's history. At 37, he was nominated for the presidency of the United States by the Democratic Party, but was soundly defeated by Abraham Lincoln, whom McClellan held in contempt. Believing beyond any doubt that the Confederate forces were greater than his and that enemies at his back conspired to defeat him, he equally believed that he was God's chosen instrument to save the Union. Drawing entirely on primary sources, Stephen Sears has given us the first full picture of the contradictory McClellan, a man possessed by demons and delusions. So I'm very, very happy to have this. This is an older copy. It's from 1988, published in 1988, and it comes from Tickner and Fields out of New York. But that's all right. I like older books, as you know. You know, if you've been through like bookshelf tours and stuff, you know most of my stuff is older stuff. So I'm very glad to have this. Thank you, Todd, for that. And you know what? Todd's such a great guy. You want to know what else he did? He threw in a bonus gift for my 500 subscribers celebration that I had on my Q&A, and he threw in a bonus book. And this one is Alexander Stevens by Rudolph von Abele. And no dust jacket with this, but that's okay. I got a whole bunch in the collection without dust jackets. That is not a problem. But this is great. It's Alfred A. Knopf out of New York, and it's from 1946. So this is an older copy, but I have nothing on Alexander Stevens. So this is like brand new territory for me, and he is a guy that I've been wanting to get a book on because, like I said, I just haven't read any. I've read about him in general histories, but I've never read a biography on him. So this is going to fill in some gaps for me with my Civil War stuff. So I'm pretty pumped up to have this. Thank you, Todd, for that. That was extremely kind of you. Very, very kind of you. And so, BookTube, that is my book haul. If you want a Steve Donahue pyramid, here you go. There's the Steve Donahue pyramid. So there's my new stuff for these last few weeks. Tell me what you think of my book haul, mail haul collection there, and if you've read any of those, leave some comments for me and let me know. And if you have any questions about anything, let me know. And I just hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for watching. Happy reading.